same story, different year. Allen Robinson struggled in the 2021 football season and was going pretty high in most drafts this year because he signed with the Los Angeles Rams, replaced Odell Beckham with Allen Robinson, and people thought good things because Allen Robinson has made magic out of nothing when you consider his career with Blake Bortles and other quarterbacks of lesser ilk. However, last night, 65 snaps, 48 routes run, and 2 targets, as opposed to Cooper Kupp, who had 15, as opposed to 7th round pick from 2021, Ben Skowronek, who had 6 targets last night. How are you feeling about Allen Robinson today?
I mean, last night was just awful. And I wouldn't say that's on the part of Allen Robinson. I mean, we got an interesting little stat the other day about Allen Robinson, which he averaged 3.5 yards of separation in his passing routes compared to the league average, which is 1.5 yards. So he was gaining separation. I just think the main problem was that Matthew Stafford wasn't really looking his way. And, obviously I get it. You have Cooper Kupp, but does that spell that he might be forcing the ball to Cooper Kupp quite a bit? The 7th round guy, he got quite a bit of targets, but was it because he had the separation? Did you just not like the way Allen Robinson looked when he ran his routes?
Allen Robinson, if he has 3 yards of separation, you would
he's
say
wide open.
He has enough. Yeah, in the NFL, if you have a yard of separation, that's considered open in the NFL.
And he had 3 yards of separation, so that he's sitting there waving his hand like, "Hey, I'm over here."
Hey, come on, Maddie, come on this way. I asked for the Rams version of Matthew Stafford, not the one that played in Detroit for 10 years.
Yeah, and it's funny too because someone posted on Twitter, and I don't know if you saw it at all, but it was when Matthew Stafford threw the ball over his head in the end zone, and Matthew Stafford turned to McVay and said he doesn't want it, and it's like, well, wait a minute, you overthrew him by a little mile. He wanted to go get it, you just overthrew him. So
is this all because he's not going to the breakfasts? Is that what it all boils down to? It might go to the 6:30 breakfast with Cooper Kupp.
It might be, honestly, because I don't know what's going on, but it seems
it's
like
one game. It's one game for what it's worth. If you listen to Matthew Stafford's comments from last night, his theory on why Allen Robinson didn't have a productive week 1, I think they played maybe 2 snaps of man. It's a lot of zone. They clouded to the boundary quite a bit. Allen saw a lot of cover 2 over there. Well, that's concerning because the Bills aren't going to be the only team in the NFL that runs cover 2, especially if they know you're struggling with it. Because last night was a struggle for the Rams, and the NFL is a copycat league. So if you told me next week Atlanta wanted to run a little bit of cover 2 just to mix up their snaps and cause Allen Robinson to become a non-factor again, because they're going to look at those comments from Matthew Stafford and say, hey, what worked against the Rams? Oh, cover 2? Okay, let's dial up some of that. I know A.J. Terrell is a great man-to-man cover corner, but if cover 2 is what seems to be your kryptonite, then NFL coordinators are going to be more than happy to oblige. Remember the cover 2 high safety that they were running against the Chiefs last year? Same thing. If you expose your weaknesses in a post-game press conference, sometimes the NFL is more than happy to adjust to that. Allen Robinson, though, next week, like I mentioned, he does get Atlanta. As the main outside wide receiver, he will probably get a lot of A.J. Terrell. Are you starting Allen Robinson next week?
I mean, if he's getting 3.5 yards separation, I'm still starting him, honestly, because if he can still get that wide open, he deserves the targets, honestly, because I like we said earlier, he's waving his hand telling Matthew Stafford, hey, look my way. I'm wide open. Like, hey, look at me. I'm
so
over here. So
you're buying on the Rams to correct or to overcorrect because, we gave this guy 2 targets.
Yeah.
So you think squeaky wheel gets the grease?
Yeah. And, like when you mentioned the press conference that Matthew Stafford said, oh, they're running a lot of cloud and cover 2 over there. Does that say more about Allen Robinson, or does that say more that Matthew Stafford can't throw against a cover 2? Because he did have 3 interceptions last night as well. So,
or maybe that says a lot about the Bills. The Bills were the number 1 defense in the NFL last year.
And don't get me wrong. I'm not taking anything away from the Buffalo Bills. I mean, they're the most complete team in the NFL for 100%. But, if Matthew Stafford is not comfortable with throwing to a guy who has almost 4 yards of separation, something's wrong, because, I mean, I don't know how much wide open he can get.
I'll tell you what's wrong. He had a off-season elbow issue. Kind of makes you wonder if he's hesitant to throw that deep ball. Even the deep ball that he did toss in that game kind of came across as a little bit of a lame duck.
Yeah.
That was ready to get snagged if there was a willing defender under there. And we saw that a lot in the postseason last year. So Matthew Stafford well on pace to defend his interception crown, as he was the leader in 2021 in that category. 3 interceptions out the gate. Unless Trevor Lawrence was hoping for the repeat because they were co-champions in that category, Matthew Stafford might take the lead. You know what the Allen Robinson situation does remind me of, though, last year? We were asking the same questions about Robert Woods. Robert Woods had a slow start to last season, and Woods had been a productive wide receiver for the Los Angeles Rams over the last couple seasons. So we assumed that he was going to be a wide receiver 1 again. He wasn't. He was like a wide receiver 3, a flex play at best. And maybe that's what Robinson turns into this year. I will say that he started to get it together towards the end of the year, or at least in weeks 8 and 9 before he tore his ACL. He had double-digit fantasy points. We saw Odell Beckham Jr. Start to come along in this offense last year once he started to figure things out. Van Jefferson was a wide receiver 2 upside play with more or less wide receiver 3 floor. So that's probably where Allen Robinson's going to stick around throughout the most of the season. I do want to say, too, Van Jefferson was ruled out with a knee injury before the game. So there is the possibility that Van Jefferson comes back and also takes targets away from Allen Robinson. I know they run a lot of 3 wide receiver set, but Van Jefferson's been in that offense longer than Allen Robinson has. So that's could always mean that he starts to see more of the targets when he gets back from his injury. We'll monitor how serious that one is, but it sounds like you're still confident in Allen Robinson. Hopefully this doesn't turn into last season with the Bears, where we didn't give up on Allen Robinson until it was a little bit too late. Guys, if you have questions on Allen Robinson moving forward, drop them below in the comments. We want to see them. We want to know what your situation is on your team, because every team is a little bit different. And in fact, any and all fantasy football questions, leave them below. Leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel. From Andrew Hagenbaugh and Juju Talk Sports. Stay safe, happy, and healthy. We'll see you on the next one.